Hey everyone, today I am sitting down with an absolutely amazing gentleman. I'm so glad that we've got a male perspective on here today. Adam, thank you so much for joining me.
No problem, it's all right.
Now, I'm excited about this conversation because obviously we've known each other from kids basically, seeing each other at the children's hospital and obviously growing up, both having sickle cell and only kind of having conversations in passing, I suppose, or if we've been in hospital at the same time with what's happening in that present moment. But finding out actually more in detail about your journey and your experiences with sickle cell, I'm going to dive right in.
Cool, yeah.
So, I suppose we'll just start from the beginning then. So, are you the only person kind of in your family and, you know, immediate circle that has sickle cell?
Yeah, so I've got two siblings, older brother and older sister. I'm the youngest, the baby, as they call me. I'm the only one with full SS sickle cell, and my brother and sister, they both got trait. So yeah.
And did your parents know that? So obviously you've got an older brother with trait, so they would have been aware that they were both carriers of sickle cell.
Yeah.
How do you know what that experience was like for them? Were they worried? Did they know about it before? Or?
To be honest, it's a difficult one really, because I don't think I've ever really sat down and asked them specifically what their thought process was.
This is the problem.
When
we're not asking enough questions.
It's like the generation, I think it's be seen and not heard.
Exactly, yeah.
And that's part of the problem, because we don't talk enough about it. So for me, it's probably something that I'm going to take away from this and ask them and say, what was your thought process of thinking? Because they had my older sister and then my older brother and obviously me. So they must have known at some point that there's a 1 in 4 chance of one of the babies coming out with sickle cell SS or full gene. So. And you were the lucky one.
So what was it like growing up, obviously with sickle cell, and obviously having siblings that don't have sickle cell?
Yeah.
Would you say that you were, are you spoiled? Or are you like...
I got away with a lot, let's say that. I think there was one time at church, and my brother and my sister never let me forget this. I think my mum went up to the front and she was praying and said, oh yes, and God bless me one child. And I was like, I looked to the side of my sister and she was like, and my brother and sister looked at each other like, what? Did she just say that? Like, we don't exist.
You know what? The most blessing.
But it was funny, so they never let me forget that. But growing up, definitely I would say I was wrapped up a lot, and my brother and sister would always look out for me, and they still do to this day. Anyway, like if my brothers go in certain places, they'd be like, nah, Adam, it's fine. You don't need to come. Even when like stuff, say for instance, we went to Alton Towers one time, and I wanted to go on Oblivion. I was like, yeah, I'll go on there. I'll go on it all brave and that. My brother looked at me in the eyes like, Adam, don't go on. You will sickle. And I was like, fam, I didn't go on. I had to wait until next year when I went with school when they weren't there.
No,
then I went on.
Kind of how you
so yeah, it was one of them ones. But
do you feel like then that, obviously they just want to protect you from everything.
Yeah.
But do you think that in a way it almost makes you feel like you just want to rebel and go the opposite direction?
Sometimes, yeah, and sometimes I have. And to my, obviously, detriment, being in hospital and whatnot. But it's a learning experience at the end of the day. Like, and I feel bad because there's been times where they've told me not to do some stuff, I've done it, and then it's just ended up in hospital. And it's just one of those ones where, and they've never kind of been there. And this is where I think I'm very blessed and privileged, because they've never been there and say, I told you so, or I told you not to do this, why did you do it? Because I would get the conversation, I would get the conversations. But I know I can read in between the lines what they're saying, but they will never say you shouldn't have done this, you shouldn't have done that, because, and it's good because I can then acknowledge for myself where my wrongdoings were, and I think that's a good thing that I appreciate, definitely.
So your family's there, they're there to you and shield you from everything. What was school like talk me through kind of like primary school and then secondary school, like what were your experiences like? From
what I remember,
you're not that old.
I know, but my memory's bad, Jen. My memory's bad. So I remember primary school just being out of the class a lot and in and out and not there all the time. Very early in primary school, So my lung collapsed when I was 7, and then again when I was 11, and I was in intensive care.
When you say, look, sorry, we can't just breeze over these things.
Okay.
Lung collapsed was that from acute
From a
chest?
crisis, yeah, acute chest, and it started off with back pain, moved to my chest, and it just got worse progressively when I was in the hospital. Yeah, when I was 7, I think I spent Christmas in hospital, and then when I was getting better, I kind of felt like it was a little bit of an adventure because I was there, Wilma drip and everything around the hospital, and there would be Christmas tree, and I'd be like, oh, when's Santa coming, this, that, and the other. So obviously you're a kid in it, so you just don't really think of the severity of the situation at the time. You just living life, you just, doing what you can do. But yeah, I think that's the earliest memory. I think I remember the class sending me like a card and everyone writing their names in it and stuff like that. So that's like from primary school times. Secondary, I more remember about my mum having to tell them that don't send Adam out in the cold when it's the winter time. There was this part of the school, I think it was called a learning centre basically for kids with learning difficulties, special needs, and they said not everybody was allowed in there, so this was kind of like a special part of the school, and it was like, Adam can go in there, he can take one friend with him, and he can go in there, play on the computers or whatever when it's cold outside.
You were allowed to take someone with you?
Yeah. So they let me take somebody with me, which was nice because one of my friends always would come with me, and he was like, I don't even want to go outside anyway. I'd just rather them mini clip games and back in the day and this, that and the other, I can't remember the card games that we used to play on the PCs, but
oh my gosh, like solitaire and what, Minesweep. I still don't know how to play that game.
You just clicking the buttons, man. Clicking the buttons until it's a bomb, to be fair. But yeah, we used to just play those in secondary school. Obviously having a lot of time off here and there. My mum's been a great support, obviously my dad as well, and my brothers, sisters, and all my family, to be honest. So I feel like blessed in that sense.
Do you think then, because you were allowed, like your mum kind of explaining that to your school and stuff, was it well received by your school? Like, did you ever have any issues or instances where?
If there were, I wouldn't even known about it because my mum wouldn't let me know about it. She was militant, even all the way up to uni where I would need deferrals for certain exams or thingies. She'd be like, Adam, just worry about getting better. Don't worry about none of that. So if there was any issues, my mum would be on it. Like seriously, she would be like, Adam can't do this, blah, 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 sending all the paperwork. Because with all the time you have to send in paperwork after paperwork.
And I think people don't even realise, like, yes, some of these like extra, advantages are there sometimes if you need it. But the time that it takes to do it, if you haven't got someone there that's kind of supporting.
It's all that admin that my mum had to do that I didn't even realise and I think that helped me in my recovery because I didn't have to worry about that. Because if I was worrying about having to send an email to my tutor because I was going to miss my exam, then I probably wouldn't have got better as quick as I did. So she would always step in, and she actually built up a really good relationship with my university tutor. She would always ask, "Oh, how's your mum, Adam? How's your mum doing?" Like, those are two best friends, literally best friends. I'm like, you don't care about me.
I'm actually the student here.
Yeah. So, but it's really good in that sense because I had that support and ability to be able to just focus on getting better, basically, because that's a lot in itself.
Were you kind of, because for me, I feel like our experiences, and this is why I love having these conversations, because I feel like our experiences were quite different. Like, I felt like I was quite like a one-man soldier, like isolated, didn't really want to kind of speak about it and stuff. Were you quite open with, your experiences, what was happening if you were missing school and stuff like that?
With certain people, yeah, but they were just my close friends in school. I mean, I don't really speak to a lot of people. I don't really speak to anybody from school now. From school, it's like I got a big family, so it's family. I grew up around all my cousins, so I would share what I was going through with them, and they would kind of more know about it than sometimes my friends at school. If I shared it with one or two friends at school, then I would. But less so when I was younger. I didn't really I just kind of used to get on with things. I used to be anxious going back into school, thinking about, everyone's looking at me, and that walk down the corridor, open the door to the big class of everyone coming in at 11 a.m. Like, where have you been? Like, for the past 2 weeks. So it's like all of that kind of building up in your head, but it's always a lot worse in your head than in reality because nobody cares. It's just like, oh,
It's
hi
true.
Adam.
Especially kids as well.
Yeah.
Sometimes you kind of feel like, don't you even care that I haven't been here?
Mm.
Like, do you think that your family are they good with kind of receiving what you tell them and stuff like that, or are there still certain things that you just kind of keep to your immediate family and stuff?
I think they're pretty good, to be honest, with receiving it. I mean, I would choose to kind of tell them however I feel is appropriate, really, but I think I'll keep it mainly to my immediate family and my close people, like my cousins. Like my cousins know who they are, like they're like my brothers, and my good close like female friends like Tisha, Philly, all of them, like they know, like, and my cousin James, my cousin Aaron, like they know my bridging as well, Natty, so they all know like how it affects me. And if I'm in the hospital, I just have to say one thing, and it's like it's cool, man. They understand. And just like my brother-in-law and my sister as well. I remember one time I came into A&E and they live in Nottingham, so they drove down and came to see me. I saw them in A&E. I was like, "What are you doing here?"
Wow.
So I only just got here. Like, how did you get here so fast?
So you've got a really
things like
good,
that.
like your support system is.
Yeah. I don't think I would have been even here without them. Literally, because they've been multiple times. They've saved my life. Like, I think one time, I think it was 2017 actually, and I wrote about this because in 2017 I just deteriorated and I was on the ward and I was speaking to my sister, and then my sister was like, "He's not really making no sense. He's kind of just talking. He's confused basically." She could tell I was confused. So she rang my mom and told my mom, and then my mom on the back of that rang the ward, and she was like, "Go and check on him. Go and check on him." And so they came and checked on him. They saw my blood oxygen levels had just gone all the way down, and I had acute chest syndrome. So I had to have 10 bags of blood that day, literally. And I remember Dr. Pancham coming in. I was thinking, I didn't feel as bad as I was.
We never do when it's the situation. Like, what's wrong?
I know, yeah. I didn't realise how bad it was getting. I was like, wow, okay. Okay, it's pretty bad. So things like that, like, I don't forget. And it's like, just those like instances where people are just kind of switched on to recognise that he might not be okay here, and he's just not sounding like himself. So yeah, I'm just like super grateful for all of that, because without him I wouldn't be here. And I believe that, man.
Testament to your support system. Thank you so much. So let's go into some of the complications that you've had with sickle cell, because obviously there's so many. It's not just the pain, which obviously most people kind of associate sickle cell with the pain, which is really bad. But there's a number of different complications that you can have. So yours started when you was 7?
Even earlier than that. It was 18
that.
months when I had meningitis and septicemia. I was 18 months old, so that was the first experience that my mum told me about. Obviously I wouldn't be able to remember it. And then the next serious one was when I was 7, I think,
Having acute chest syndrome. Do you remember it at all? Like,
I remember when I was 7, I just get like these pictures in my head. I don't know if I was dreaming or if I was actually in the space at the time. I just remember being in this big hallway, and then there was nobody else in there, and I was like, just a hospital bed on its own in the hallway, and I lean over on the side of the bed and I see like a vacuum looking kind of thing. That looks like, you know, them Hoovers.
Old school kind
of. Look like one of them. That's the only thing I could remember, and it was going into my chest. So they had to have like something to take away. I don't know what. I can't describe in, but that was the next time when I was 11, when it happened again. They had me on a breathing machine which forced air down into the lungs, the CPAP machine. I remember when I had to take it off, I couldn't breathe. I was like gasping for air, and it was like trying to learn how to breathe all over again. So I remember that time when I was 11. I just remember my grandma, my dad's mom, and my cousin James looking over the bed like, "Is he awake? Is he awake?" And I was kind of just opening my eyes. I know I wasn't dreaming that time, but the first time it was too early. I probably was hallucinating, or I wasn't dreaming. And there's been many a times when I've had like hallucinations and things like that in hospital.
Oh yeah, me too. Some mad ones as well, boy. So, the experience that you had when you were 7 and then 11, because I feel like we used to see each other, but then when I was on blood transfusions, you was also on blood transfusions as well. Was that as a result of your kind of repeat?
Yeah, so when I was 11, they put me on them because of me going into intensive care, so I stayed on them until I was about 19. So through 11 to 19, I was on them every 4 to 6 weeks. 6 weeks. Yeah, that I would have.
What was that like? Like, obviously, I know what it's like to have a blood transfusion, but what was it like for you having to kind of go away for that time and, you know, missing school and da-da-da?
Yeah.
Did you feel like, did you ever have moments of like, what's going on? Why me? Why have I got to do this?
I think I kind of looked at it like, a day out of school, basically. I looked at it, I can't even lie, I looked at it like a day out of school. And I always used to feel boosted up, like with energy after the transfusion. So my brother would tease me about it. He was like, "Oh, okay, you feel a bit boosted now." He's like, I used to try it with him and stuff like that. It was like, "Oh, you just had your transfusion, innit? You feel a bit more boosted." But no, I didn't really look at it like why me as such. I just kind of, I think what affected me most is missing the time out of like school and stuff like that. And I think that hadn't really affected me or hadn't realised how much it affected me until kind of older, because I get like FOMO quite a bit when I'm like around my friends and they're doing something and I can't do it, because it brings me back to that time where I've always missed out when I was a kid. So I don't think that's kind of really, I don't even know if it's fully computed now, but it's more so I understand it now that I'm older, because I think, okay, right, maybe it's because I did miss out all that time when I was a kid, and I wasn't able to go on them trips or the things that I wanted to do at that time. So now I'm trying to compensate for it and be involved in everything. I'm like, oh, I can be here. You can't be 2 places at once. Sometimes I'll be like, oh, I wish I could just be 2 places at once, but
just to not
I can't.
out.
Yeah, well, you can't. So
okay, so you've mentioned you've had like acute chest syndrome. You was on blood transfusions for a number of years. Did you stop them by choice, or you still?
No, it wasn't my choice.
Why are you not on the? Because I know that obviously blood transfusions or exchanges are one of the like things that it's like a good form of treatment now. So
I think the concern was the iron build-up, because of me being on them for so long. I had to have the Desferal, obviously, for the iron chelation to get rid of the iron out of my heart, liver, and all that. I had, I think, a liver biopsy at one point where they took a piece of it to
see how much,
check how much there was, I think they decided basically that they were going to stop them when I was 19, and I was obviously, where was I, in college at the time, I think. College, just about to start uni, and when they stopped them, my body just didn't react to good at all. Like, I was in hospital, I remember that year, about 16 times, just in and out, and I was like, just put me back on the transfusions, please, just put me back on. And I think I was having like arguments with, not arguments per se, but I was having disagreements with the doctor and saying, just put me back on transfusions, because I can't take this being in and out of hospital. Like, how am I supposed to live my life like this? But they didn't in the end. They just said, we need your body to kind of get used to the hydroxy and not being on them. So they had me on the hydroxy, and I think after a period of time I was able to then kind of wean off them and then just kind of be able to manage my blood levels and my blood beat at a certain point normal on a day-to-day basis, which I'm happy for now. But it was a tough struggle at the time, because I thought, I'm not gonna get through it, because it was just mad. Yeah.
Would you change that? Now, like, obviously you got through that period.
Yeah.
You know, I can only imagine I've been in and out of hospital so much for such a long time. Do you think that was the best decision, or would you have done it differently?
I probably would have kind of, for me, I would have liked a bit more explanation as to why, in terms of the reason why they didn't want to put me back on them, maybe like to stretch it out a little bit more, to say, okay, we're not going to give you one every 4 to 6 weeks, we'll give you one at 8 weeks, and then every 12 weeks. But it seemed like they just stopped, because I don't know why that was, whether it was because they felt like there was too high iron build-up, but I don't think they communicated, or maybe I didn't ask the right questions. I'm very like self-reflective, and I think about, okay, what could I have done differently? Because I can't control what other people are doing, so I just think maybe I could have weaned off a little bit more, like in terms of the length of time between the transfusions, but I don't know. I'm not a doctor, so I don't know how that would have affected the iron.
Do you think that that's a common thing, like the lack there of communication between the doctors and the patients? Because I know I'm quite similar in the sense of like, you know, self-reflecting, what can I do differently? But sometimes I feel like, don't none of you guys ever think about it from the
perspective of the other person? Yeah, and I think that's an important trait to have if you're a doctor, because you need to be able to do that, because you don't feel like you connect with them otherwise. Like, you feel like, okay, I'm just another patient, like, I don't really care, like, really care, because I don't think since the doctor that I had when I was a kid, there's been a better doctor. Dr. Derbyshire was the man.
Dr. Derbyshire.
He's the man. He's the man. That big mustache, Lord.
No, it's true.
But yeah, so like, big up Dr. Derbyshire, man. I don't know where he is now, but yeah, big him up.
I know, man. So you went through, obviously, you came off the blood transfusions. You're now on, do you take anything else?
I'm just on hydroxy, so
that's the only form of treatment that you have. And does that help you?
I think so. I hope it does. Well, it's got to, because I take them, and this is the conversation I have with the doctor every clinic appointment. How you doing with your hydroxy? Yeah, I'm all right. Just
do you take them when you're supposed to?
I do, to be honest. I hadn't been good with it in previous years, but probably the last 4 or 5 years I've been more on it, because I think, okay, what are my triggers? Because I'm going to feel it at the end of the day. It's not nobody else feeling the pain in A&E. I'm going to be the one calling out for whatever. So I need to be able to say, come on, Adam. And it's the long-term thing that I think about as well. I don't want it to... I always think about the long-term effects of like mashing up your body and over the long term, and it just... the constant pain and everything. So I try and minimise that by obviously doing what the doctor recommends. So I do take it pretty often. I'll probably say I only miss probably about 5 days each month, like max. So. And
do you feel like that works for you? Because one of the things I know, like for some people, they'll say it does work or it doesn't work. Do you feel like you've had a fair kind of balance of, do you know what, this works for me for the time being?
I think so, yeah. Because I think it works for me definitely for now, because to think about other things, obviously would have to change the routines that I'm in and stuff like that. So I feel like it works for me now because I'm able to keep reasonably well and out of hospital, and I don't know if that's just my personal experience, because I know obviously it affects everyone differently, and it's like, for me, I was very bad as a child, but now I'm in my adult years. I'm seeing my adult years I was bad as well, and still can be bad, but it's just managing it so that I know what to do and what not to do. Sometimes I push it overboard, sometimes I push it right to the edge. But I'm young at the end of the day. I want to live my life in it, so it's like, it's that balance. Everything in life about balance, I always say.
True. Do you, just still on the hydroxy, because obviously I just want to dive into everything.
Yeah.
Do you not worry about some of the side effects of hydroxy? Because I know that so I was on it for a period of time, but then came off it because they said that I couldn't conceive if I was on the tablet. And then I know that for men it can affect your, it affects the
sperm count. Yeah.
Does that bother you, or are you more focused on, I want to be well for now?
I'm more focused on the fact that I want to be well at the moment, and then when I'm thinking about, okay, having a family, I feel like that's got to be a lot more planning involved, and obviously life doesn't happen like as people plan it out ever. So I do think about them things, about how it would affect that, because, and how my health would be affected if I was off hydroxy for a certain period of time because of that. Because I've even had these conversations with the doctor. So like, how would it be looking? Like, would I have to be off it for a certain length of time if I was planning to have a family? And then what would happen? Would I have to go on transfusions? Would I need exchange or whatever? So I feel like there has to be a lot more thought and planning into it, all of that, which is, it's obviously not ideal, but it comes with the territory in it. So it's like, yeah.
Has having sickle cell and obviously having to think about all of these things and having to have a plan, has it impacted or affected kind of you, like dating, relationships or anything like that, or what's that been like for you?
Yeah, I feel like it's probably definitely affected dating, relationships, because maybe if I feel like I'm ill, or there's no point me opening up to somebody because I feel like I'm going to be a burden, then I wouldn't do that. I'll just kind of just be like, no man, go on.
Do you feel like that anyway? Do you feel like I always wonder what it's like for guys, because obviously it's kind of like this, the way that society is, and obviously the guy is like, it's meant to be the big guy and whatever, protective, and guys that approach women. Have you ever felt like has it made you feel kind of like shy or anything like that? Do you get nervous about telling someone that you have sickle cell? Do you tell people you have sickle cell?
Yeah, I do. I do tell people that I've got sickle cell because I feel like it's an important conversation.
When do you
to have? I would tell them pretty early on, to be honest.
Like, hi madam, I have sickle
cell. No, not that early. You could find out my name first, but pretty early on, if I feel like it's gonna be something serious, then I have that conversation, and then they can take that information on and do with it what they please.
Have you ever had anyone that's taken the information on and been like, see you later?
No, to be honest, I feel like I've been pretty lucky in that sense. It's just like, see you later now. It's fine.
Yeah,
but
girls.
that's all right. But
that's good. I've had some harmful experiences. But yeah. Okay, so that's good. Yeah. So how do you approach that conversation?
That's a good question, you know. It's just, I just approach it like I was speaking to anybody else. Like if I was interested in or wasn't interested, like, I've got sickle cell, because I think more now as I'm growing older, it's not just for my benefit, it's also for theirs, because if I tell somebody that I've got sickle cell, then that's going to raise awareness. Like just yesterday I had somebody at Airbnb staying in my house, and they've just any person, like randomly I told them I had sickle cell, and I was like, oh okay, what's that like for you then? Because I heard about that, and I just think it's important to tell people. But in terms of the relationship side of things, what was the question again? I can't remember.
No, you actually answered the question.
Oh, did I? Okay.
I think I'm the same. I try and in my head just think I'm just raising awareness, and then it just goes kind of from there. So once you've told someone, what is your kind of take on, do you ask them their sickle cell status, and what's your take on kind of having children? Like, are you, if someone says to you, oh yeah, I know what sickle cell is, I have it too, is that kind of like the flames out, fire burnt, done, like we can't go on, or do you just kind of just think go with the flow?
Yeah, it would be a difficult one for me, because that's why I think the conversation has to be early.
Yeah. Because
before you start catching feelings, it's like, I want to know this, because this is going to affect me in the long term, and I've got sickle cell, so I'm going to be in a situation, and it's different for everybody, because you can't help who you fall for at the end of the day. But I think having those conversations from early on is important, and I've been like, I'm in a relationship right now, and I've been quite open, I feel like, and I feel lockdowns help that, because you've just had the ability to just get to know people on a deeper level, where you just chat and speak on a level about things that you might not normally. So I think it would be a difficult one.
Do you know what you would do in that situation?
I would struggle to carry it on. I would struggle, personally, because I know how it's been for me personally, and for my mom as well, and not just my mom, my dad as well. Like, and those kind of things burn me. Like, I don't ever want to feel like I'm a burden to somebody, and it's probably detrimented me to being open to people before. Like, I've left people's houses having a crisis and not told them I'm in crisis. So
is that just friends, family, or just like
both?
Relationship? Just
everything. I just don't want people to know, and I've been in a situation where I feel like I'm a burden, so I better just get out of this environment, sort myself out, and come back when I'm ready. As long as it's not life-threatening and I know I'm not going to keel over and drop down on the floor, then obviously, as you know, like ambulance 999, it's done. But I've been close to that point where I've been like in a lot of pain. Probably should have called the ambulance in hindsight, but I haven't, because of my pride and because of like how I feel. Like I don't ever want to feel like I'm a burden to somebody. Like, and because I've going back to the point that you made about what I would do in that situation, it's because I've seen not the burden, because I can't ever say like my family's never made me feel like I'm a burden at all, but I've seen how it affects them and how they've got to dedicate their time to it. So for instance, my dad would work nights, and to have a son and you come off a night shift 6 a.m. in the morning and you find out your son's been taken to hospital, that's hard to you don't think about how you've got to deal with that stuff. You've got to go to bed there knowing that your son's
not well, in
hospital, and your wife has taken him. She's either gone in the ambulance with him, or she's gone to here or that, or my dad's come back from the night shift and I've been screaming out in pain, like what's going on, and he's got to kind of compute all of this when he's like had no sleep. And it's like all of those different things I think about, and I just think about the family dynamic of, if I was to be with somebody with sickle cell, then I would struggle, because I know that I've got this that I need to deal with myself in terms of the sickle cell. So I need to be able to give my whole self to this other person and child. And it's hard because, I don't know, man.
Do you want children?
Yeah. I'm definitely a family person. Yeah, 100%. I love my family. Like, as I said, I grew up around my cousins and it. So family time for me, like, is just the best time.
That's true. That's good. And do you find that, so if your current partner has the trait, would that, like, would you say that you're looking for someone who's AA, or are you just kind of?
Yeah, ideally, but it's that same thing, like, because I've had these conversations as well with her, because it's like, and I feel like it's important, and it's kind of like, you don't want to say it, but you have to kind of just talk about it because it's important. But yeah, I just feel like, ideally, yes, but yeah, you can't help it, you fall for it at the end of the day. So it's a tough one, and I don't have any like qualms with anybody that's of another opinion, because that's their personal decision. It's like all of these things going on with COVID, trying to divide people, vaccine, no vaccine, this, that, and the other. It's that I don't know how I just equated the two, but it's basically like those things. Everyone's have their own opinions on it, and that's fine. Like, everyone will make their own personal choice based on how they feel.
I always think, like, in my head, that sometimes, even though my mindset is like, I don't want, because I know what I've been through, I don't want no one else to go through that. But I'm then also, on the other hand, very aware of the experiences I've had because the other person didn't understand. And I think, imagine what it would be like to just be with someone that gets it. Like, today we ain't getting out of bed, today we ain't doing this, I'll be eating that cool. It's just, do you get what I mean? So sometimes I feel like that could also be a pro on
that's true.
As well.
That's true.
So I always find it interesting to see like what other people's take is on
I hadn't thought of it like that, to be honest, because I think it's good that you can connect with people who have sickle cell, and when you talk to them about certain things, it's like, oh my days, you just understand, like, you have to explain it, but I feel like they, as long as that person that doesn't suffer from sickle cell shows the willing to try to understand, I can totally respect that, because you can't come from it, like, you can't ever understand everybody's experience in life, because everyone's different. So I think I'm a little bit on the other side of the coin, in the sense of where I feel like it's good to get that other perspective from the other person, because they might be, I don't know, well, they come from a totally different perspective at the end of the day. So yeah, but it's interesting. I hadn't thought about that point before.
Let's think about it. Okay, so on the topic of not really relationships, but still kind of going into the complications, this is a conversation that I have always wanted to have with a guy, because there is a list of complications that you can have with sickle cell, and obviously there is one that only affects men. right, which is priapism.
Yeah.
And I've never been able to sit down and just have a just conversation about what it's like. And obviously I want people to know, because I feel like because there's a lack of people speaking about it, there's just so much that people don't think about or people are not aware of. Are you okay to explain what it is? And I don't know if you've even experienced it before, but just to share.
I find myself one of the lucky ones because I have never experienced it before, and touch wood, hopefully that I don't, because I've heard from others that have sickle cell that it's very, it's painful, yes, and it's embarrassing. As a man, like you feel like, okay, priapism is basically like painful erection in it, so that can happen because obviously sickle cell affects the blood and it goes anywhere throughout the body.
So it's like a crisis, like how you can have acute chest syndrome, which is a crisis in your lungs. Priapism is literally just like having a crisis, but it's in your penis, basically. Basically. And I've heard that from some people that they've had to, obviously to get rid of it, it's an injection, I think. They can actually just to get rid of it? Yeah,
so I think when you go to the hospital, obviously you tell them, and every single time I go to the scat centre, they say priapism, you have to ask, they have to ask you every time. I think they put an injection in there to kind of dull the pain, or I don't know what, but I've heard from people that it's not a very nice experience at all, and to have anything going near there, like let alone a needle, it's just.
I mean, if the football.
It makes me shudder. It makes me shudder.
Like
so yeah.
Well, so you haven't experienced that?
No, I haven't. So.
That's interesting. I didn't even know that there was a way, because obviously when we have a crisis, it's just painkillers, isn't it? Yeah. So I just thought it was just as in the same way you would just take painkillers and just.
No, I think it's alleviated through an injection.
Is there anything that, like, obviously you would know because they would speak to you about it, is there anything that can trigger it more so than not, or is it just like
to be honest, this is the thing, like my sickle cell network is very limited, and to say that my male sickle cell network is even more limited, to say I could count on my one hand. And as men, we never talk about this stuff.
You guys don't talk about
we don't never talk about this stuff. So it's like, oh yeah, whoever. How was that experience with priapism the other day? You're not going to talk about that. So I think that's a part of the problem, yes, because I don't feel like I have a close enough relationship with people with sickle cell to openly ask them about it. Right. So yeah, that's where I'm at the moment. It's a difficult one because I don't know what it can be triggered on. Maybe if during while you're having sex or something different. I don't know.
Does that not worry you? But have you not, because you know it's something that can happen? Have you not ever like worried about it or thought about it, or because I feel me, I'm very obviously I'm inquisitive because I just want to chat to everybody. I find out what this is, but I feel like I don't know. I always want to. I feel like knowing would have always been better for me instead of sometimes being surprised with things. Is that not something that you've been?
I feel like having this conversation now is something that I probably should ask more about.
I haven't instilled the fear in you like that.
I think having the conversation now is something that I would need to ask the doctor more about. What if that was to happen? What can I expect? Because I could be like traumatized, like literally. So yeah, I think having this conversation is definitely going to be asking the doctor something next time I speak to her, because I don't know, man. It's just I just don't like to think about it. If I'm brutally honest, I don't like to think about it.
I get that though, because guys don't like to think about anything that's no.
I just hope and pray, man. Pray to the Lord that it never. Yeah, man. So Lord.
Right. So, are there any other kind of complications with sickle cell that you have experienced, like major ones, or?
I'm trying to think.
Not really. I mean,
not
if you had
really,
major ones, it would have come to you. But
it would have. Not major complications now that I can think of. I've been ongoing hospital treatment, but that's more because I'm short-sighted, and less so, and because obviously the sickle can affect your eyes as well. So that's something I'm ongoing like the eye hospital for. But apart from the transfusions and then the Desfil on the back of that.
Do you still take Desfil to remove the iron?
No.
It's just so once you stopped your transfusions, was that it?
Yeah, pretty much.
Or did you still have to continue taking the?
You see, that's a good question. You know, I can't remember. I think it might have been a little bit afterwards.
Just to kind of
continue. Not straight away, but then I just stopped. I think. But yeah, in terms of other ones, not really. Oh, yeah, bone infection, osteomyelitis. I had that quite a few times.
Okay. What is that again?
It's basically like an infection in your bone. So I had it in my collarbone one time.
How do you get that?
I don't know. This is the thing, like, and I don't think the hospital knew as well. The amount of tests that I went through, it was just mad. So yeah, I went in with a crisis. This is normal for me. Like, I'll go in with a crisis, and then I'll pick up an infection from somewhere. And that's the common thing for me. I'll go in with a crisis and I'll stay in because I've got an infection, because I need to have IV antibiotics or something else. So osteomyelitis was one of them, because it affected my collarbone. So that swelled up, I don't know, up, and my shin bone as well. So it was really weird because I went into hospital. They sent me for all the scans, the MRI, all the different scans and things. They couldn't find nothing. Blood, when they try and grow stuff.
To see if
anything's there, any infections or anything, but they couldn't find anything. And I was like, there's something wrong. There's definitely something wrong. So, like, you know what, you just feel it. It's your own body, innit? So that was one of them, because I had to then have a 6-week course of IV antibiotics. And this was actually a really hard time for me, actually, because I was in uni at the time. I was just working in my placement year, and finding out that I had to have 6 weeks worth of IV antibiotics.
Did
I was thinking,
stay in hospital for 6
this
weeks?
is what was going through my mind at the time. I was thinking, so where am I going? Am I staying in hospital? Am I going home? So they did say I could go home. They'll teach me how to do it, administer it myself.
Wow.
And so basically what they did, they gave me this thing called a PICC line in my arm. It's basically like what cancer patients have when they have chemo, and it just stays in. It's like a line. And they taught me and my mom how to prepare the antibiotics, and I would have to have that every day at a certain time. So at first with work, they were wicked when I was working on my placement year, because I was like, yeah, Adam, leave early. So I was working in Coventry at the time, so they'd let me leave early, go to the Coventry hospital, have my treatment, and then I would go back to work in the morning. But then when they were at a point where I could do it myself, they would literally show me how to do everything, and I would just like sit there at home at my mum and dad's, and I would prepare everything myself, and then literally my mum would help me because I ain't got 3 arms to screw the thing in there. So that was on the back of the osteomyelitis. They did also take a piece of my shin bone, like, to test it, to see. Oh my gosh.
Was you sleeping?
No. It was local.
They took?
They chipped off a piece of the shin bone. So this is the thing, like, I was on the bed and at the hospital, and I went down, and it was such a weird feeling, because basically they did the local anesthetic, and you can't feel anything in the area, but you can feel the pressure. So you can feel someone pushing down on your leg, and I was literally just closing my eyes, praying, like, please do not break my leg. Because I was thinking, like, the amount of pressure they were putting on it, and it was like, they must have been doing something. So I didn't look or anything like that, because I think they just must have covered, so I couldn't see it anyway.
Seeing it can just be worse.
Yeah, I would have just panicked, I think. And I'm not really squeamish like that anyway, but that made me feel very uncomfortable. So they tested that, didn't find nothing. And then they were just like, yeah, we'll put you on this course of antibiotics for 6 weeks. And I think that happened to me twice. So it happened once, and then when I had to go back again, it was like...
And they don't know what caused that?
No, it's just ongoing episodes of osteomyelitis, so yeah.
You've mentioned a few times, like, in some of the kind of, like, you know, complications and stuff that you have, that it's been like a tough time, or like uni was hard, or work was hard. Do you feel like enough is done around kind of sickle cell on a holistic level in terms of our mental well-being and stuff like that?
No. No, not at all. I think only just I went to the Scat Centre like 2 weeks ago, and they said, "Oh, we offer some
they've
well-being
got psychologists now, haven't they?
well-being services."
Probably to
And I
the
was like, "Okay."
I
went home and I told my mum, and she was like, "About time they did them.
Yeah,
About
damn
time,
right.
about time." So I was thinking, nah, not at all.
But also, like, it's you know, it's been 30 odd years, and
Yeah.
now you want to think,
Exactly.
let's dive
I've gone
into
through all
it.
that trauma already, but you just want to scratch the surface
Yeah.
now. But yeah, it was interesting they said that actually, because obviously they come and they say, oh, they do this holistic assessment, whatever they called it.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, cool. All right, then I'll come and see if I require the services. And I think it will be useful, to be honest, to just go into it a little bit more, because unless I talk about it, then it just carry on living my life as I do. And stuff like how you said, like, have you thought about how it would affect? So with the priapism, so I haven't really. So obviously that's something that I'll take away, because I'm thinking, okay, how would it affect me if God forbid it did ever happen? So it's things like that. But
do you talk a lot about your feelings and stuff with your family or friends or immediate people, or do you just tend to just kind of keep it all in?
Yes and no. I feel like if they're my close people, then I will talk about it. But I don't really feel like it comes up unless I'm in that situation. So if I'm unwell, it's all fine and dandy when I'm well, keeping well. Yeah. But then it all comes to a head when I'm unwell, like, and it'll just literally, I'll just break down.
Do you think does it only happen when you're just unwell? Or
mainly,
do you think
yeah.
Sometimes you just have days where I'm like, rah, that happened to me, you know, but...
I do think, like, sometimes I think like, what's the... I think about the stuff that I've been through, and I'm like, yeah, I do think, like, wow, that's a lot, that is, for somebody, like, so young, to go through all of that stuff, and it's just mad, because I feel like, yeah, I'm not too sure about, like, how anybody else would deal that, basically.
Well, we are warriors.
Yeah, definitely.
That for no reason.
Definitely.
If there is something that you could kind of change, or about kind of your experience or something, what would you want to kind of be different for people like living with sickle cell?
I think support when you're younger, and that's something that I feel passionately about, because if I was guided by somebody that has sickle cell, I probably would have found it a little bit easier when I was younger. So I think support, like, for the youth, definitely. It's different. What else? And I don't think you can get that through the hospital, because it's all well and good. Yeah. Like, it's all well and good where you go there, you see them, and this, that, and the other. But just unless you're in that space where you have people that suffer from the same condition as you, then you don't really have a chance to speak to anyone about it. And I think, touching on the psychology point, the only time that they asked me about it, or I was discussed with a psychologist, I think, was when I was young. And I think as a kid, you just say things like you feel, you say what you feel. And I think I said something to my mom, like, am I going to die, or something like that, or something that, like, was very, like, pertinent to her. So she thought, you know what, I need to have somebody speak to Adam and kind of, like, get him to kind of express how he's feeling. But since then, I don't really feel like, obviously since now, the past couple of weeks, there's not really been anything. So I think more support, like, on the mental side.
Do you think
also,
the healthcare system do enough for us?
They do a lot, don't get me wrong, but how much can you do? Like, it's like, how long is the piece of string of the NHS? It's like, they've only got so many resources, and it's only so much they can do, so they're limited to it. So it's a difficult one, because I know the people that caring for the people with sickle cell are doing their absolute most, because they do try and do additional things, but yeah, it's just No, I don't think so. I think more can be done, definitely. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Do you have any questions for me?
Just a little bit. I know I've talked a lot, but I want to know about like how it's affected you, like sickle cell and you growing up.
That's
mainly. That's a whole nother episode. Okay.
No, it's not. Any specific questions? I've been here talking for ages. I don't know. I feel like my sickle cell's been more to do with the complications. I would say the crisis and stuff I get, but I feel like they're in. Like, it's always in hindsight and upon reflection, I feel like they're manageable. There's probably only been 1 or 2 times where I've been in like such bad, like the pain's been so bad, like I thought the pain was going to kill me. Other than that, even though it is very painful at the time, I'm just kind of like, we can ride it out, kind of mentally kind of doing it. But for me, it's just all of the complications, like the acute chest syndrome, the gallbladder, the liver, hip problems, hip replacements, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Now it's like lungs, chronic lung. Sometimes I just feel like they're just. I got to a stage where I felt like I don't even feel like these are real anymore. I just feel like when I'm okay, people just want there to be something wrong with me. So they're like, oh, today you've got this. Oh, I'll come back next year and it's this. So I've kind of had to learn to just deal with things myself. I feel like I've given them, I'm saying them, I feel like the doctors and stuff, not from the children's hospital, like big up Dr. Derbyshire, I just feel like he was the best ever. But as an adult, I feel like I've given them control over my health, and they haven't always made the best decisions for me.
Yeah.
So I'm just at a stage now where I just feel like I want to try and see what I can do for myself, just see how I get on. I'm not saying like, I'm never gonna need them, but I'd rather go to them if I need them, as opposed to them trying to say, oh, let's just do this, even though you're okay, let's just do something else to make sure, or because I always end up with problems. Yeah,
I feel like it's a lot of trial and error a lot of the time with the doctors, and
it is.
It's like because everybody's different and they don't know, and sometimes I think that's where they go wrong, because they don't listen to the patient. And they're like, this is the person, you're the expert at the end of the day, like nobody can tell you because you feel it, like it's your own body. Because I've been there where I've had to plead with doctors, and I should never have to plead with them. Can I have a blood transfusion? Oh no, we'll see how you go. We'll see how you go. I went home, I collapsed in the shower, literally. Like,
I feel like our mentality is like prevention is better than cure.
Yeah.
Their thing is like, oh, let's wait to see how bad you can get before we want to like.
And this is the last time I was in hospital in February, and I was actually surprised they had given me a blood exchange, because I was kind of like, okay, I think I need this. And they were like, okay, we'll give it to you. And I was like, well, so I didn't have to. Okay. Because I think they didn't want me to get progressively worse. And I think because of the COVID situation, there were a lot of people in intensive care with COVID. They didn't want me to go into intensive care. And they thought, yeah, let's just give them this exchange. And I think after that, then they thought, yeah, okay. And I think that was the saving grace, because without that, I would have been a lot worse, definitely. But yeah.
Well, thank you so much for your time today.
No problem. Thanks for having me, man.